And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Tuesday. We are less than a month away from kickoff at the Autumn International Series. We're very much full into our URC, and unfortunately, we did start seeing a couple of our South African sides going down this past weekend in the URC. Apologies for no watch logs, people. I was away. However, am back and back with you guys for a long time. We're going to be back live every weekend from now until basically Christmas, and potentially on Christmas, because that's kind of the coverage and the commitment we have to this channel and to the show. But obviously the big sort of build up is all towards the Autumn International Series, which is going to be very interesting. This box have got 6 games that they need to try and go out and impress. Well, 4 and then 2 SAA games. But yeah, on the face of it, they've got six opportunities to really sort of get players going, get team improvement, and prepare for the World Cup, which is less than a year away. And it's a very good opposition, obviously, in the end of the tour, in the likes of Ireland, France, England as well, and then Italy as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be an absolute corker of an end of year tour for the box, and I think it's very much it's going to make it. I think we're going to be literally where we are. I think we will very much understand exactly where we rank compared to the other nations by the end of the year tour. You know, I think that it's very much a case of ones that do or die. To be honest, I think that you know, we're very much on the journey towards being ready for the World Cup, but the usual sort of thing is the best teams are, you know, don't just have tournaments, they can do it consistently. And you know, it's a case of, for me, it's a case about building but also it's getting results and building at the same time. You've got to find that you know, that balance. So yeah, but we're talking about a lot of things today. We were talking about the URC, so I'm just busy putting up a couple of things that I want to talk about. We're going to be talking about the end of the tour. We're going to talk about Monty LIBBOK and Johnny Lombard in the box setup, and how that's going to work, as well as young Chris and potentially being involved there. But so yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the past weekend of results stuff like that. Massive victory for the Lions, and a big opportunity for a big loss for the Bulls, a loss for the Sharks, but an important victory for the Stormers. And I think for me, what was so good about this weekend is we unearthed some really good players. Or some big players sort of really stepped up, and you think of likes of Henkoff and Bake, Franco Horn getting man of the match for the Lions. I thought Ruan Fenter running over Hamish Watson, Sasha Gomezulu being given the kicking duties for the Stormers and being given a lot of responsibility against Zebra and really thriving in that role. You know, scoring try assist, scoring a try. I think it was like 22 points he scored in the end. You know, I think it's going to be, so we're talking about a new generation putting their hands up. Whether it's going to be too late or too soon for the World Cup, probably. But we have seen how Canan Moody has managed to make the step up. But, you know, on the same time, Canan Moody has now been injured for a couple of months, which is, you know, difficult to sort of understand exactly what situation. I mean, you can't always, for example, say as soon as a youngster gets injured that he wasn't ready. But there is obviously quite a big trend for players who are at a young age are pushed through quite quickly. Sometimes do end up with some injury issues. But going through some of the comments. Good morning, Mo. As I said, it's been very cold in the USA. So it's good to see you, Stephen. Good to be back. Brave Star, good day. Ultra Sharp is saying, are there any hints of newbies coming in? We'll talk about that. Good to see you off the drink. Yeah, I mean, a couple of hours, you know, we'll put the beers away. But Brave Star saying should have included Rainer Smith in the box setup. Mark Dunphy says the Leinster man was super impressed with the Sharks' attack, and the tries and scored was a fantastic match. Let's say, man, I hope you're well. Don't you think we should give the likes of Sasha Gomezulu opportunity in the SAA side? Personally, no. I think let him play in the Stormers and stuff like that, and we'll see him soon enough. But I mean, the guy's only played about 3 or 4 matches in his professional career. So I don't think I wouldn't rush him into the SAA side. I would rather rush somebody. Well, I wouldn't rush. I'd rather put somebody in there who's more sort of settled this level and can be, not really thrown in the deep end and can be a genuine option for next year. Nobody's been officially called up yet. Keenan said Jordan Henry needs to be called up. Him and his brother will be a perfect combo. Right, so the rumors, obviously the rumor mill is thriving. And the rumors are that came out on Sunday is that Mike LIBBOK and Johnny Lombard will be on a plane to Europe, and they are set to be involved in the South Africa A-team squad, which is good news and bad news. First of all, I'm very surprised that if Mike LIBBOK, for example, is only within the South African A side, but because the article said that 100 Pollard is likely going to miss the Irish game and potentially the entire tour. It also said that apparently Elton Yankees will not return to the team. Damien Willemse will be sort of in the number 110. And apparently, according to the article, Johan Goosen and Frans Steyn will be the fly half covers. Personally, don't understand how Johan Goosen gets this sort of like free pass when the guys played, 2 games of rugby in the past, this year. 2 games of rugby. That's what he's played. 2 games of rugby. 1 at 15, 1 at 10. And the 1 at 10 wasn't particularly good, if we're being brutally honest. So I would have had Johan Goosen and Johnny Lombard as the South Africa A-team fly-halves, and I'd say Mike LIBBOK, right, you're going to tour with the box. He's a genuine option. He's playing a lot of rugby. He's playing very good rugby. He's earned his stripes. He, for me, definitely has to be above the pecking order in front of Johan Goosen. But the box do see something in Goosen they very much like, and he has been involved in the block alignment camps. He has been involved in the setup during the year. So the fly-half continuing to be that sort of really problem area for the box. And I like the fact that they're going to look at John Lombard if they do. I said it a couple of weeks ago, and people laughed at me. People laughed at me. I was laughed at. But Johnny Lombard has got the potential to be a really, really good fly half. He was not block call-up material, but he was definitely putting his hand up as one of the better 10s before he went to Japan, before his injury. He was involved in that Springbok Showdown game, for example, so the box coaches do rate him. And now that he's back and playing in South Africa, he's played 3 matches, and all of a sudden, once again, he's back on the Springbok radar. It was easy to forget about him when he was playing in Japan, but he's a very accomplished player, and he's still only 24 years old. So he's sort of Willemse's age. And before he left, and I mean, you're going back about 3-4 years ago, he was really shining in a Lions side at about 2021. You know, he was very much touted as a future flyer for the box at a young age. He was absolutely class at under 20 level. You know, he is along the line. You know, for example, we talk about Sasha Ngomazulu. Johnny Lombard was kind of in that bracket if we go back quite a few years ago. So cool to see that he will be getting back into the setup. But I do think he's got. I mean, look, at the moment he's benched Jordan Hendrickse, and he's playing good rugby. And the nice thing again, in terms of suiting the box and stuff like that, he's versatile. He can play at 15 if needs be. For example, could probably play in the centres. I could probably play him at inside centre. I don't think he'd be phenomenal. He's very much more, for me, he's very much a traditional fly half in that he knows how to bring other players around him into play. You know, I think that he's a player that has a very good offload game. Doesn't do a lot of running, but it's a very good, intelligent kicking game. So, you know, I think that. Look, I mean, it's very exciting if they do go Mike LIBBOK, Johnny Lombard as the 2 South Africa A fly halves. You could almost argue that your South Africa A fly half stocks are better than your actual box fly halves. And again, my worry with Damien Willemse, and people keep saying it, it's actually driving me up the wall. Because I keep saying my worry with Damien Willemse is the goal kicking. And everybody's like, well, he doesn't have to goal kick. But nobody can actually give me an alternative. Like, I keep seeing comments, I keep seeing in chat, people are like, but why does he have to goal kick? Who says the fly half has to goal kick? Nobody, except if you don't have a goal kicker within the squad at 9 or at 15 or at 14 if you're Argentina, you've got Emmanuel Botfelli, then you are in trouble. We've got to have a plus 80%, plus 85% goal kicker in the 15, in the 20, and in the 23. You know, we've got to have Damien Willemse cannot be our number 1 place kicker. It just can't happen, guys. He's not good enough. We know it. We know it. I know he practices a lot, and maybe he can one day really sort of get himself back, but he can't be relied on. And this is test match rugby. You know, this is test match rugby where you're going to be taking 3 points. Basically, anything within the opposition half, you should be taking 3 points, saying, cool, and restarting. And if we don't have someone that could do that, we're in trouble. And whilst I understand that Dave Willemse doesn't have to be the one to do it, none of our nines kick regularly. We don't have any outside backs who kick regularly for their clubs. And I mean, again, people like, oh, Colby can kick, you know, and Billy LaRue could kick, and maybe Jaden Henson, he kicked at school. Most people can kick a ball with the tee. I can kick a ball with the tee quite well, actually. I reckon I can hold my own. But we've got nobody in the squad apart from Pollard and Yankees and France Steyn who kick for their clubs, who are the #1 choice place kicker at their clubs, who are doing it week in, week out, who can sit there and say that they've slotted 40 penalty and conversions over the season at 85%. We don't have that in the squad, and that's where it makes me worried by going Damian Willemse at 10, who kicks a goal, you know. And again, I'd love to. I mean, the one person said, "Well, then you have to play France Day at 15," and that's literally where we're at, because you almost do have to then play out France Day at 15, so you can't kick or at 12 or whatever, you know, because we need to have somebody who can kick a goal. So it's a problem. It's a problem. It is very much a problem, you know, because you get the excitement of Damian Willemse, and 100%. But you know, you've got to sit there and select a team that can tick various boxes and stuff like that. At the moment, Willemse at 10, really at 15, we don't have that place kicking box ticked, which for me is a part of a test match level. Jade says, finally, LIBBOK will always be the third set fly and Polly and Willemse in the mix. Brave Stars said the West was dissecting Jan Koos the other day for shortcomings. Marnie should be ahead of him. Keenan saying, I don't see the point of putting a 30-year-old in the squad. We need to build for the future. Koos is not the option. Look, I've got no issue with his age. I mean, this whole build for the future, we've got a World Cup in less than a year. The time for building is definitely not now, people. We can build after the World Cup. Right now, it's who's playing in the World Cup. That's what we're building towards. You know, I don't think we're really building for the future. We're building for the World Cup. You know, so I think some people are saying, you know, why would we keep playing France for who? We know we can do. Give somebody else a chance as a youngster. A year off in the World Cup, isn't it not about getting our best team into the best space and gelling and stuff like that? I personally think it is. I think most other teams, I mean, Johnny Sexton, for example, will start every match for Ireland at the end of the year tour if he's fit. I don't think Ireland are going to sit there saying, you know, we need to build for the future. Look, they might arrest him because he's 37 and has a bad sketchy injury past. But right now, for me, we need to start playing our best teams, because you've only got, what, 7 matches next year? You've got 11, maybe 12 matches for the World Cup opener. Not a lot of rugby, guys. I mean, it is a lot of rugby, but it's not that much rugby. Martin Douglas says, Elton Yankees finished. I don't know. Apparently could be going to France, which I think would probably be a good move for him if he wants to try to reignite his career. Ricardo said, LIBBOK and Lombard, very exciting players. We need that player in the box setup. Obviously needs Spicy Plan to kick. Well, he's going to Ulster, so man can get us some experience in the conditions. We spoke about Ngomazulu earlier. I said I personally would just let him thrive and let him get a season under his belt. Obviously, Willemse needs Percy the head. We're going to teach him. Jan HB not back in the France Day and Shah. Stay needs to lose 10 kg before he gets chosen again. Sasha's not ready yet. Let him play more games for his franchise. Tom Rax says, Sasha too young and still learning. I tend to agree. I'd let him there. Like, same as like a Ruan Venter, for example. Sasha's young, eh? Like, Sasha's young. Like, the Oak was captaining the under 20s. Like, he's 20 years old. He's played 4 matches in his professional career, maybe 5 or 6. He played 4 URC games, I think. 5 URC games. He's only started once in his professional career at the highest level. But he will get another couple of games now, which is fantastic. But, you know, I think that he just needs a full season ahead of him. And then maybe, look, you never know. You know, could he be the situation where like 4 fly halves go down and we have to bring him up? Maybe, potentially. You know, that could be a possibility. But right now, I wouldn't be bringing him at the end of the tour. I'll be letting him play, especially he's coming back from injury. Play 3 or 4 Stormers games here. Fantastic, cool. You've had a good start to your career. Have a month off. Make sure you're fully fit. Make sure you know, working on your game. and storm through the rest of the URC campaign and get through a URC campaign. Don't get injured. You know, stay fit for the entire URC campaign. That's what we need him to do. So as I said, I wouldn't be looking at Ngoma Zulu. I really wouldn't. Not to say he's not. Maybe he is ready. He could very well be ready. 100%. Maybe he could be ready. You know, maybe he does just step up. But I think he's too important for the future of Springbok and South African rugby to risk sending him to a level where he might not be ready. They might not physically be ready, for example. And if he goes down or whatever and starts getting injuries, we then don't get the best out of what could be an absolutely world-class player. No SA squad has been announced, so that all still is speculation. We expect to see an announcement in the next week or two. I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday last week. They did confirm when they confirmed who they confirmed the coaching staff, that they said that the squads will be announced within the next, I think they said the next 3 weeks, and that was about a week ago. So I expect the squad to be announced maybe next week. I'll be surprised though. I'm expecting the squad to be announced earliest probably next weekend, but probably for me about the 24th of October. I think that's probably when we might see a squad announcement. Although we do announce squads earlier and earlier, so we might see a squad announcement next week. But I'll be very surprised if we were to see one this week. But that SAA squad is going to be interesting. You know, we were talked about the fact that you know, outside centre is such a problem, and then you got Henk van Wyk, who's put in these brilliant forms the last couple of weeks. Does he find his way into the SAA squad? Maybe he does. Other youngsters, for example, I think we could be looking at trying to think of, Pace Lazy, I think, wouldn't look out of place in that SAA squad. I think that, you know, for example, like Simon Hartzenberg, you know, he's in many ways actually he's had almost more experience all of a sudden at a senior level than Sasha Ngoma Zulu has. I mean, Hartzenberg, I think, started 3 times at this level so far. So yeah, I don't think we need to be sending a bunch of teenagers to the SAA side. We do need it to be a genuinely SAA side. We need it to be fringe players who can step up, players who will be called upon if people go down. And they said that they want to use an opportunity to bring some senior players back and play them into form. And I don't mind that as well. The SAA side is not an emerging side. Let's get that very clear. Like Emerging Ireland were here. An emerging side, so an emerging Springboks, for example, are a young side who are, you know, 19 to 23, 24 years old, the future of an international side. That's an emerging side. An SAA side is your B team. And what do you use B teams for? You use them to blood some youngsters at this level. You use them to build depth. For example, you know, bringing in players who are ready at this level to try and align them and stuff like that. And you can use them to bring players back into a system that haven't been out there well. For example, if Alkias Neyman is ready to play, I'll play him in the SAA game, not the Springboks game. Give him a go, see if he can still do it, see where he's at, for example, give him some game time. You know, maybe it's an opportunity for, you know, somebody like a Joseph Dweber to get 2 games and get some confidence up. I don't mind that at all. It's a B team at the end of the day. It needs to be treated as a B team, not as an emerging side. It's very different to an emerging side. We will not, we'll probably see, I'm hoping we might see like an emerging tour in 2024, for example. But this is not an emerging side. It's an SAA side. And we have not had a lot of opportunities this year to blood youngsters because we did miss out on a lot of rugby in 2021, for example. So I would like to see an SAA squad with Evan Roos running around, Salman Murat and Ruan Nokia running around, Intutuko Tunu running around, Grant Williams running around next to Monty LIBBOK. And maybe you got Henk Baker outside centre, but maybe you got Andre Estes on inside centre. You get some more opportunity there. You know, you've got Aronsa playing at 15. You know, or something like that. That's what this SAA side needs to do. It needs to allow us to experiment and to try a few new things within a BOK environment. You know, to try and align. You're not going to suddenly go and pick an SAA side and all of a sudden start playing a New Zealand brand of rugby. We will play a very similar standard rugby because it's about where they can fit in to the BOK setup and the BOK game plan. And I think that will be sort of the primary reasons, the primary thinking around that SAA squad. So obviously, Bull Center needs to go. Most people are saying surely France stay in time. Springbok is done. Wasn't impressed with him against Argentina as well as an emerging island. Part time got hold of him. Rest are saying France stay is just there for sentimentality. Some of the old talkies needs to go. I missed Dwayne Vermeulen this weekend. I didn't manage to catch the Ulster game, so I want to try and watch the highlights there to see how he went. I'm hoping a couple of games under his belt, he'll look a bit better for the end of the year tour. Because then if he doesn't look better, for example, then you're going to start making some pretty big decisions. Right now, I think that Jasper Wiese has firmly got his hands on the number 8 jersey. I don't see them removing him from it either. But if Dwayne Vermeulen wants to find himself on a plane to France, then he needs to start proving that he can still play at this level and be good at this level, be world class at this level. I mean, there's a lot of other players. I mean, I'd like to see Raymond Roulet involved. I'd love to see Dylan Lates involved, for example. Lots of people talking about Rod Dupree. Somebody talking about the Dupree twins, for example. There's a lot of players that could definitely be involved in this SAS squad. I'm very interested to see how different it is. Are they going to be picking a Springbok squad of 30-32 and an SAS squad of 20-25, or are they going to be picking 2 squads of around 30 and some of the Bok players who aren't selected for the relevant Saturday clash? Will they play with the SAS side? I'm very interested to see how they're going to really manage the 2 squads. Because there are different coaching staff, for example. Zondile Stick and Rassi Erasmus are sort of doubling up. But, Bafana Atlek was involved, and I think it's Vian Dupree is involved, as well as Joey Mangala. So it is a different coaching staff for the South Africa A squad. It's not the same coaching staff as the Boks. So I'm just trying to see Dwayne Vermeulen in the game against Ulster, who did pump Ospreys. I want to see how his game reads. Obviously, it's a very it's not particularly formative, but you can see a couple of things. So Dwayne Vermeulen made 3 carries, 3 tackles, didn't miss a tackle, 26 meters gain, beating 2 defenders, and all floated clean break, 5 passes. Doesn't sound terrible. I mean, obviously, you've got no idea what those tackles and stuff like that. But didn't look like he made too many mistakes, which I think is probably the main thing. Jenna saying Lombard, in my opinion, is more of a question mark since he has been in Japan. We haven't seen much of him. Maybe play him more instead, bring Smith or Hendrickson in. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, if Lombard's been playing really good rugby in Japan, we don't know if he has or hasn't, and now he's just brought that form straight back into the URC. Why can't we back him? If you can back a JC Creel from France, why can't you back a Johnny Lombard? Lombard slotted back into the line side seamlessly. I mean, he's very much benched Jordan Hendrickson for good reason. He has been better. He has been much better than Jordan Hendrickson. Hendrickson only had that first game, really. But I personally think that the backline, it's working. It's working at the end of the day. The lines are working. So I don't think they're not going to drop Lombard, for example. And whilst Hendrickson will get an opportunity, right now it's Lombard's turn. And that's not an issue for me at all. Yeah, I don't forget John Augusta's playing good at the Saints. Yeah, I mean, at loose forwards, it's just ridiculous how many loose forwards we have. And so, thoughts on Lombard versus Edinburgh. I watched all his clips back and it didn't look special at all. It was pretty solid, to be fair. I mean, it was a weird game because it didn't really flow that much, and a lot of the line stuff was against the run of play. But he manages the game quite well, quite subtly in many ways. He very much is a first receiver, so he likes being close to the ball. He likes just getting a couple of offloads around, stuff like that. Wouldn't say smash the door down, but I think he was solid. And I think the biggest thing about him is that he's consistent. And that is something which is very rare in South African fly halves, is consistency. We've seen fly halves in South Africa who, very much one week will turn it up and beat a team by himself, and the next week absolutely nowhere. He didn't kick particularly well on Saturday. I think he missed half his kicks. He didn't kick well from the tee at all. But he tackled very well. Made a lot of tackles, which again is a big question mark for South African coach, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that I'm very keen to see how he goes this weekend at home against Ulster, good side. So that'll be a bit more challenging for him. But at the moment, I'm quite chuffed with what I've seen from him. We haven't seen him at his best yet. I think he still needs a job. But also, I think what doesn't help is that the Lions' attack has been very counter-attack right now. You look at the tries they're scoring; very few of them are being created through various phases and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we are looking at a Lions backline. Tanana Humber's new, Johnny Lombard's back, and as I said, Marius Lowe's new, Henk van Beek's new. We had an injury to Edward van der Merwe, so you got Kieran Horn playing in the wing. Andries Coetzee back. This Lions backline, it hasn't played together at all. like it's a brand new backline. You go back to the last game of last season, and I imagine it would have been Morne Penneberg at 9, Jordan English at 10. It would have been potentially Ras Bakana at 11, which we haven't seen. It would have been Burger Odendaal at 12, who's left. Similani at 13, who's left. 14 Edwin van der Merwe, who's injured, and Kieran Horn at 15. So Kieran Horn is probably the only person who started the last game for the URC who's currently actually playing in this Lions backline. So I don't think that this Lions backline is firing on all cylinders on an attack point of view. A lot of that because they haven't gelled together. Defensively, however, they've been very good, and Lombard has defended very well. Which, as I said, is a big question mark for the BOK coaches when they want a flower up that can defend. And I think LIBBOK as well, for example, has been tackling a lot better and has defensively been a lot better, which I think will allay some of the fears people have of backing him. His past taking goes a waterboy grooming coach, but his long time is best. We've got experience in the first team, no need for us to tell him what to do. Brad Starr says Brandon Smith is amazing for Benson, should be up there for selection. I like Brandon Smith, he's good fun to watch. Musa says been impressed with Lombard defense, not there yet with attack. The Red Savage says LIBBOK has been kicking well and he's pretty ferocious on attack. They should definitely call him up. Tender saying there are some people I would drop to make them gain their spots back. Creel, Bermuda, and Peter Steph, Toy, Faf, Herschel, and no controversial LaRue. Give more game time to Renach and Ruiz. Johan says the twins, Akka, Kubas, Visa, Udendal, Tian Skuman, Serpentine, Kara, and Carlos Allen deserve SAA spots. Yeah, there's a lot of players in Europe who would be wanting to be involved there. Ang says Kutsia seems to take control quite a lot, sometimes pushing Lombard out wider. You're right, didn't kick well, but 2 were long range. I'm hopeful for him. Opposite cover at 15-2. Yeah, I think that versatility for him does definitely play into his favor because the Boks just love versatile players. We're quite saying hope Tyron Green gets call up. Yeah, so in terms of other news, we saw I've only watched parts of the highlights, but we saw a really brave effort from the Springbok women this weekend in the early hours of Saturday morning. And I think what was quite cool is that they lost by 35 points in the end, but they were in the game for a lot of the game. You know, if you look at the timelines, for example, I had it here as well. You know, the floodgates kind of opened later on in the game, and we were in the game for a relatively long time. You know, they scored. I think the halftime score was 19 points to 0, but we held on. And at the end of the day, we had no. I mean, we were not supposed to begin to compete in that game. So it was a brave effort from the Springbok women against a very, very good French side. They are next up against Fiji. That game is, I think, this weekend. When is it? Yeah, Fiji on Sunday at 6:45. So it's a bit more friendly time. We might even be live for it. You never know. Might sit down and see if we can get a live stream there, depending on 6:45, 7:45, 8:45. Yeah, I might be a bit stuck time-wise. But yeah, so we saw the Women's World Cup. We saw a huge victory from England against Fiji. England obviously being the favourites. For the tournament, New Zealand beating Australia quite comfortably. We had Italy beating USA, Canada thumping Japan, and Wales just getting a win over Scotland. So yeah, hopefully they will be able to. I mean, if this BOK women's tie can get one victory, I'll mark it a massive success. If you've watched any of their rugby, and I'm not going to sit there and say that I have watched a lot of their rugby because I haven't, compared to some people who do generally watch a lot of their rugby. But if you look over the last year, there's so much improvement in the South African women's side. There really is. I have some very nice players in there. And now that we've sort of got this dual contract system where they're playing 7s and 15s, they're just playing a lot of high-level rugby. We're seeing the improvement. And, you know, this World Cup is a nice taster, but we're building towards the next World Cup. And I think that we will hopefully have a much more competitive side in the years to come and not just be a half-assed team which don't get enough attention to ever be able to do well. So I think that this will do a lot for the growth of the side. We've got Fiji on Sunday, 16th of October, and then we play against England on the 23rd of October, which I think will be a bit of a long day at the office. But yeah, at the end of the day, as I said, I would take one victory. I think in the World Cup would be very promising. And then other news, we've seen the departure of Steven Kitsoff. He's going to Ulster post World Cup, so big loss to the Stormers, but I don't think surprising really. But they're going to have to bring somebody in, because I really think that the Stormers' reserve props at the moment are struggling. I don't think Andy Mark and Yeti Bashir are going to cut it. I really don't. I think that they've struggled the entire season so far. And, you know, you've now lost Steven Kitsop. You've got to replace him. You've got to find someone to step in and take his place, because it's just not good enough at the moment. They really are struggling without their big boys. So they're gonna have to. As I said, for me, they're gonna have to look at someone. I don't know who they're gonna look at. They'll probably just piss me off and go and find like Steve Satole, just because, you know, why can't the Lions have nice things? But very interested to see who they do replace him with. So that was some transfer news there. Elton Yankees being linked with a move to top 14, which I think would be very cool if you can pull that off. Obviously, we saw the whole Worcester Warriors story, so Dylan van der Merwe back at Edinburgh. A lot of players going around, making those moves and stuff like that. They're quite precarious times for the Warriors, but that was kind of inevitable with how it was all going. But yeah, so we'll be live again tomorrow at at 1 o'clock for the lunchtime show. So thank you very much for everybody for joining me. It's good to be back. Smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Also, a reminder to please go and sign up with BetCoza, and you can win some free bets this weekend once again. We've also got we're going to be doing a guide on how to watch the Women's World Cup if you are keen on watching it. It's a very good rugby this weekend. We did see from it, so it is a lot of fun to watch. I definitely do recommend it. And then we're also obviously be doing, there's a couple of ways you can watch, so get yourself ExpressVPN, because I think you can watch Munster versus Bulls this weekend on a free-to-air broadcaster if you've got a VPN. So yeah, we can really cook. But also we'll have a lot more lots more stuff in the Women's World Cup on Forever Rugby. We're going to have highlights on there as well as press conference, stuff like that. So make sure you go and check out Forever Rugby as well for even more coverage of your favorite sport. People, thank you very much. We'll chat to you guys soon. Until then, do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And we'll see you tomorrow.